Ladies and gentlemen, we will call the October 13th meeting of the Caroline County Board of Supervisors to order. We have all board members here with the exception of Mr. Seeley, who has gone through a medical procedure and we understand is doing very well. So we look forward to seeing him at the next time. I will ask Mrs. Long if she will give us the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would, please stand. Mrs. Long.
Let us pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day and for all your many wonderful blessings. Especially, dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for watching over Mr. Steele and the doctors, and wish and ask, dear Heavenly Father, that you give him a speedy recovery. We ask that you be with all our first responders and our deputies. They work to protect us and serve us. Be with those of us here tonight as we try to make the best and wisest of the county. Be with us today and always. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. You join me with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All righty, we've reached the opening board comments portion. Mr. Forehand?
None at this time, sir.
Mr. Black?
I have a few. First of all, there was an Adopt a Highway this past Saturday. The YMCA and Lake Landor combined to cover from Sassafras Shade Winery to Madison Elementary. There was a total of 36 bags of trash picked up with about 20 volunteers. So in work in 2 hours. So that's probably about 5 or 6 miles worth of road that were picked up by those volunteers. So, can't thank them enough, everyone, for coming out and helping keep Caroline clean. I also would like to mention, I don't know if you guys saw it or not, everyone on the Board of Supervisors saw it, the memorial. The stone is in over there. So the stone, it looks, Mr. Schiebel, Mr. Schiebel, the stone looks very, very nice. So that looks incredible. So if you get a chance this evening to go out and see it, it really, they did a really, really fabulous job with that. So finally, I don't normally comment on these. Mr. Underwood once said, I don't deal well with ignorance. I had a phone call from a citizen in regards to the vote on the Confederate statue. And the message was that I should have recused myself because I was a Northerner and I was from Maine. I believe that 4 of the 6 members of this board were born in the North in some way, shape, or form and moved to Virginia. Whether you're from Maine or Hawaii, whether you're from Washington State or Florida, if you live here and you're a citizen and you're rightfully duly elected, you can vote on any subject unless it's personal. So that is, you want to talk about ignorance. That is complete and total ignorance. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Mr. Underwood?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to mention that the State Fair had several events over the past couple of weekends, and from my understanding, they were very well attended. So I just thank Marlene for continue to find ways to use that venue to help the county and attract people to Caroline County. That's my only comment, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Underwood. Mrs. Long?
Yes, thank you. I have a couple of comments and announcements, but first I'd like to read a letter the chairman asked me to read tonight that was written to the chair and the Board of Supervisors from Sheriff Lippa. On behalf of the Caroline County Sheriff's Office, I would like to take this opportunity to extend our sincere appreciation to the board for their recent approval of pay bonus for the employees of our CCSO. Your response to our law enforcement personnel by approving such a bonus is a tangible way to recognize their continued efforts to protect life, to protect property, and to enhance the quality of life for all citizens in Caroline. Our staff is dedicated to serving the Caroline community, and this has been more apparent this has never been more apparent than working with several vacancies along with the many challenges of COVID-19. The mere fact that our board recognizes these challenges and showing their support is truly appreciated. The bonus provided is uplifting, especially good for morale, and we want you to know that we will continue to provide excellent service for the people of Caroline. I remain respectfully yours in all matters of mutual interest. Tony Lippa. And then I also wanted to tell citizens that there are a couple of events coming up. Of course, first of all, everybody remember to vote, because we won't have a meeting until after the election. And on the 11th of November over at the YMCA, that's Veterans Day, they're going to be dedicating a flagpole over there at 4 o'clock if anyone would like to attend that event. And that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mrs. Long, and thank you to the sheriff for that response. I have just a few quick ones. One is I've discovered that there have been quite a few construction projects that are running late at night, and I think Mr. Fincham has reported a couple of problems to me. So I'm going to ask the board if we would consider removing the exemption for construction from the noise ordinance. That would help us stop some construction that's going on at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and I think that's a good thing. Also, I would like to recognize a couple of our county employees. They're all great folks to start off, but one is Mr. Kevin Whiteman. I think Mr. Whiteman has been here for quite a few years and always seems to think outside the box. I think that's part of that Marine attitude. We adopt or adapt, overcome. Mr. Whiteman, on his own accord, got together a group of volunteers to save the county a considerable amount of money when it comes to moving the Confederate statue. So I think he deserves a great deal of applause and appreciation on the board's part. The other person I would like to thank is Casey Treon. Casey's the lady that you see wiping the podium and the speakers, and she's the one who actually checks people when they come in the building. And she's probably outside now checking folks, but it's really a wonderful effort that she makes, and she's here for every event that's in the community center. And I think it's worthy for us to acknowledge her, and of course she was out doing things. So again, I'd like to, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank Ms. Casey Treon for all of her hard work in keeping us clean and safe. So Casey, thank you very much. And that concludes my comments. Any amendments to the agenda that board members have?
I have one. I have an appointment to make.
Aside from your Board of Equalization? Because we're going to get to that.
I'm sorry, I skipped right over that. So it's
Okay.
already on the agenda. So
Any amendments? No amendments. I do have one I'd like to make as a quick broadband committee update we could do as part of the calendar items, if that's okay with the board. So if there's a motion to approve the agenda with that addition, we'd appreciate it.
So moved.
Motion made by Mr. Underwood.
second.
Seconded by Mr. Forehand. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We will move to Mr. Forehand's appointment. Mr. Forehand.
I'd like to appoint Stefan Levisk to the Board of Equalization.
Is there a second for Mr. Forehand? I'd be happy to second. Mr. Underwood makes the second for Stefan Levisk.
Levesque.
Okay. And you've got his contact that you can give to Mrs.
I
Hall?
will give it.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously. We have the Economic Development Authority. Those expire on November 19th. This, I believe, is just informational to make sure we're ready. Reedy Church, Bowling Green, and Mattapanai expire. The board's going to meet again, Mr. Cully, on the 10th or the 12th. We usually meet on a Thursday, the 12th. So we're going to meet again on the 12th. If we could have those confirmations available, that would be great. I think they've all said they're willing to do it, so we'll come to that. And that takes care of the appointments. We've removed the Planning Commission. Consent agenda, items A through I. Any discussion or items you'd like to pull from the consent agenda?
No.
We have decided to approve agenda item H. So there's so a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented would be in order.
So moved.
Motion made by Mrs. Long, second by Mr. Forehand. The consent agenda as approved would be, no, that's 11, 12. So the consent agenda items A through I approved as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion also carries unanimously. All right, we're not going to take an hour-and-a-half break. So okay. Item number 7 is the approval of the resolution to post notice to abandon the school access. Mr. Fincham has asked that we defer that.
So moved.
So we're going to defer agenda item 7. Mrs. Long has made that motion. Is there a second to Mrs. Long's motion?
Second.
Mr. Forehand seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Is he here? Mr. Shebel? Is the person for number 8 here? Or are you going to handle number 8? That's a task order for wastewater treatment sludge?
No, I don't need it. Yeah, I don't need it.
Yeah, I figured he would.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This item is for sludge handling abilities at our regional wastewater treatment plant. When we expanded the facility 7 years ago, or finished expanding it, sludge handling was used in the old oxidation ditch. And the facility now has outgrown that ability to be able to handle our sludge, to be able to have the sludge age required for us to be able to dispose of it. So this is, we've had this in the CIP for several years. There's money set aside, $435,000 presently set aside to start this project in this year's budget, and then it'll be the remaining part in next year's budget. In this, I've got a design from W&W Associates for $81,500 to be able to design a new tank. If any of you have been down there, there is a what we call a steel glass line tank that would basically double our capacity for sludge handling. In the original analysis, it was going next to the existing digester. Now that we've expanded the plant and no longer use drying beds, it makes more sense to use the real estate where the drying beds are. So the project did go up in cost of relocating that to a piece of real estate that wouldn't be used as well. And then when the belt press room is expanded, it would be directly adjacent to that. So what this is for is requesting the board to allow us to do the design of this facility. And then once that's done, we'll come back to get authorization to go out to bid.
Okay, board members at this time have any questions of Mr. Shebel? Mr. Underwood?
Do we have a rough guesstimation of cost, Mr. Shebel?
$600,000.
How much
There's
did we?
435.
435 is in the budget now.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Cully said that was approved through the CIP, but needs to be financed as well.
Individual financing, but you're only asking for the first 2 task orders, which is $81,500.
Yeah.
Right. Which number do you want right now? The 81.5 or the 59.5?
No, it would be the 59.5, which is strictly the design
That's the
piece.
design
The
part.
rest of it's actually construction administration in advertising and bidding the project and making recommendations.
Mr. Chair, I would move for the approval of the engineering task contract with W&W Associates for the amount of $59,500.
Ms. Long makes a motion for the approval of agenda item number 8. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Underwood makes the second. Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay.
Aye.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously. We will do agenda item number 9. Mr. Black has requested this to be on the agenda. This is a discussion of the aqua rate increase. Mr. Black?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Obviously, we've all got the notice, and somehow my numbers. Anyway, we got the notice. The county got that. Mr. Schiebel, if you could, I think that we may need Mr. Schiebel as well. Got the notice of the rate increase for aqua. There's a lot of rate fatigue, I guess, going on with this because they come back every 2 to 3 years and ask for 8–10% increase in the bills. So this is yet another increase. What I am really asking for this time, because I understand the last go-round, the county put in about $30,000, $35,000. It was split between us and Lake Landor, and I think there was a couple other localities. Fauquier put some money in, and I think there was a county on the eastern shore that put a little bit of money in. One of the things that was a huge help to us, and I think it would have to be answered by, as you can see in the in your packet, there's 2 ways of doing this. We can actually be an active participant, or we can. There's a lesser one that's the quote is 30,000, and then the other one was like 100,000. One of the big things that was a big real help last time was to be able to have the public hearing. I think Mr. Thomas, you attended the public hearing here in Caroline. So I would ask this board, I mean, we have Lake Landor, Bridlewood, Lake Caroline, Elsinore, there's a whole bunch of districts. What's that?
Campbell's Creek.
I think it's really, really important, whatever we do, that we put some money up to a certain amount in, and to ask the SEC, State Corporation Commission, if we can have a hearing again, because I feel like the citizens, when we do our rates, the citizens have a right to come here, right? That was being able to get the citizens to the old Lewis and Clark Elementary, or old Ladysmith Elementary, was a huge help in that, and I think that's what the citizens really want, is they want to voice their frustration, to be able to voice their frustration. So my only confusion in the board packet, Mr. Emerson, was I remember several years ago, when we talked about this, we went with a more expensive one. The cost to do the less expensive one was about $5,000 or $10,000, and then the cost to do the more expensive one was about $70,000. Now I'm seeing in the board packet that we're looking at $30,000 and $100,000, and I have a hard time understanding why the fees have gone up so considerably in just a matter of a few years.
Excuse me. It was 5 years ago that we did the other
3.
work, and I asked for an estimate. I asked Andrew McRoberts, who does, heads up our SCC work, what it might cost for the 2 things, and the estimate he gave me for the lower amount of work, where we would not enter an appearance in the proceeding, was between $20,000 and $30,000. Now, lawyers tend to estimate high when they're asked about those things because they don't really know what it's going to run into, and what we really all experienced and don't like is giving someone an estimate that was X, and then it actually cost X plus 50%, and they say, well, now why did it cost that much more than what you told me it would? And so we kind of want people to be prepared for a worst case. It may very well be that it would be closer to the 20,000 or maybe even 15. I honestly don't know, because I don't do that type of work. I did look up what it cost in the 2015 time frame when we put in a full representation, and the legal fees there
30,000 last
goes
time.
up every year, because cost is up. I think 30,000 is high in terms of what I think it would cost. But I'm not doing the work either. But again, I think that's the worst case. Easily come in, well below that, or a limited sort of assistance, helping the citizens with what they might want to present to the SEC, and then going in and presenting something for.
Mr. Emerson, can you explain to the public, so that way people understand it's on record, the difference between the two things we're talking about here? Because we have one quote for 100,000, and we have one quote for 30,000. What the difference between the two is?
Well, the lower cost is simply to try to look at the information that's available to us, and to go into the initial hearing where they allow public comments, and to sort of make a public comment on the part of the county that that we think the rate increase is too high, whatever. You're not really presenting evidence. You haven't hired an expert witness to actually give you evidence to rebut what Aqua is asking for. And the other part of doing that would be to perhaps look at or help private citizens who might want to go and attend and make their own comments at the time when any member of the public could come and comment, is the way I understand it. The more expensive option is basically a trial. And it is all of the different things that you have to do when you get involved in a trial, and you have to examine evidence from the other side. You have to counter motions that they make. You have to write briefs and research law. You have to hire an expert witness, have his testimony, enter his testimony into it, try to counter their expert witness's testimony. It's an expensive operation. I mean, it's a full-blown trial.
Yeah. And with the opposite side they just paid $1 billion to buy a gas company. So with the opposite side having unlimited pockets.
But SCC, I mean, it can be very expensive. Andrew McRoberts, who was the one who prepared the estimate, I mean, he handled a case, I don't know now, 8 or 10 years ago, for probably 20 counties around the jurisdiction, somewhere cities around the state, including Caroline, to oppose a Verizon plan to change the way their infrastructure was taxed, because it was all going to lines that were not copper lines, but the others. Anyway, that was paid for by a consortium of jurisdictions, with the larger ones paying more in terms of the fees than the smaller ones because they had more at stake. And we won that argument, but it wasn't a rate argument. It was a how are they going to be taxed?
Right.
But that process cost around $1 million, I think, in fees. And yet the jurisdictions will save multi-million dollars over the next few years because they basically won, and the way they want to tax that infrastructure is the way it will be taxed. Mm-hmm. But my point is that the proceedings are not inexpensive to do. I don't know if there's somebody else who would go in with it if you wanted to actually enter an appearance or not. Split the cost.
Right.
We did that the last time. So.
Right. Okay, I appreciate it. I mean, what is the feeling of this board? I mean, my motion would be not to exceed a certain amount of money of the lower cost. We did a lot of the brunt last time, but I do feel like the citizens, if Caroline, that are under it, have a right to have a public hearing here in Caroline, rather than having to travel to Richmond. And that was a huge benefit to the citizens, as I've said before.
Long, question.
No, I just wanted to comment on this. I really have to tell you straight out that going the big bucks is totally out for
Right,
me.
right.
We've done this before, and I'm fine with the public hearing. We can do that. That's some cost there with staff and equipment and time, that type of thing. I have no problem with people gathering information, or maybe the county attorney helping you write a letter. But after the public hearing and the people make their case, there's nothing to stop you or another elected official or a citizen also to carpool down to Richmond and show them you care enough to be there in Richmond, make your case there. And you know you're going to get an increase of something.
Oh, yeah.
But if they know you're watching, it might not be as high. But, you can't keep whipping this horse but so much, because not everybody's on these water systems.
Mr. Underwood.
Yeah, my comment, I agree with Mr. Long totally. Mr. Black, I don't have an issue with public hearing. My concern is that we have to have an end game. That's what I'm concerned about. That we've been down this road for quite a few years now, and I'm not so sure it's going to go away unless we have an end game in mind. And I'd like to see us have an end game for the citizens that are in your district that are being, in all the districts that are being affected by Aqua. I don't think we can continue to kind of chase this rabbit. I think we need to put it to bed somehow. And I'm not sure how we do it, but I think we need some real discussion, because I think we can't continue to do this.
Right. Mr. Emerson, is it possible without us doing even the cheaper version to get a public hearing in Caroline on this?
Yeah, I honestly don't know. We can try. I think that's sort of within the discretion of the commission and their staff. But yeah, we can certainly try to do that. I mean, that is just a request. It's not.
Right.
I mean, that doesn't take research or.
Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't take a lot of time.
Right, but I mean, I do think if you have a public hearing, yeah, traveling to Richmond is nice, but you're not going to get the crowds, and it's not convenient for the citizens to have to travel down to Richmond. So, and the SEC hearing room is not very big. Been in there many times. So, Mr. Forehand, what's your take on it? Because many of them are your citizens too.
I would definitely want to request that we have the hearing here. We get our request in early. It was well attended last time. I think there would be it would be a positive for the community. Would be something that would be well attended again. With Nancy, I don't want to stroke these large checks. If we need some seed money to get the ball rolling in the right direction, then I'm open to hearing about that. But that's where I am.
I think if we could ask Mr. Emerson to make a request to the State Corporation Commission, if this board would be amenable to this, to have a hearing here in Caroline, as well as we did a very good job last time of making it public to the citizens. There was a little postcard that went out to the citizens about the public hearing that were on the system. So I would ask, which is a lot less than the 20 or 30,000, and it's a lot less than 100,000. I guess that would be my request, is that we at least allot that to the citizens who are on the system so that they understand what's going on. So it'll be an information purpose.
Underwood had another question.
I'm sorry, is there not like a homeowners association where they could send
The homeowners
information
association,
out to
yes,
everybody?
they can, but not everyone is on the homeowners association.
Okay.
So like for example, Bridlewood does not have it. So you have some areas that are under Aqua that do not have not have it. And yes, the homeowners association would make people aware. I mean, last time we did a good job with VDOT, put a sign up for it when it was coming. So those were all little things. I don't think that total would be a lot less than the 20,000 even that Ben was talking about.
Yeah, you had a good turnout last time.
And I just think that's fair. Just that's being as fair to the citizens of Caroline.
And one of the things you mentioned was surrounding localities participating with us. How do you propose we do that?
That would be if we went in. That would be if we went in and paid the 20,000 or the 100,000. I mean, that would be a much bigger. If we were doing a much bigger expense, yes, we wrote letters to them last time. If we're going to do this public hearing in Caroline, there would be. I mean, people from other localities can come to a public hearing. They can go to Richmond. That there's like the last time the State Corporation Commission had public hearings in.
No. Other localities, like other governments, saying that they oppose this rate increase along with Caroline
and see the problem with that though, Mr. Thomas, is now they're tiering. They used to have different rates, so they had like 5 different rate structures, and so it was what a locality, for example, in Fluvanna wanted wasn't exactly what Caroline wanted, as far as. And so the State Corporation Commission has been making them, I don't know what the word for is, compound the rates, I guess, Mr. Schiebel, is that the way they're doing it? So in other words, having 5 rate systems every time that they go for rate increase, they make so you have to have 4 compress. They're trying to make them compress their rate structure. But what I'm asking for here, I mean, I think other localities, someone from other locality could show up to our public hearing. I know we had someone from the Eastern Shore last time that showed up, but the State Corporation Commission last time was very, they were very amenable to having some of these hearings in different locations outside of Richmond because they know that their room is small. And so I think they had them in various locations besides Caroline. I think they had one in Fluvanna. It's covered on the news. They had one here in Caroline. I think there was maybe one on the Eastern Shore too for some of the citizens out there. So what I'm asking for should not be, it would be just for a mailer when the hearing comes, which I think the hearing will be in April, and to request the State Corporation Commission that we ask Ben to write a letter to the State Corporation Commission that we can have a hearing here in Caroline.
Can I ask Mr. Blackford?
Yes, go right ahead.
So after the public hearing, well, the purpose of the public hearing is going to be to discuss the rate increase, correct?
Sure.
Is there an increase that people have talked about that's acceptable? Is no increase acceptable?
I think they just, I think the problem is, and I mean, the market's hot right now, obviously. I think the problem is this every 2 years, it's 8 to 12%. And the people get frustrated with it, especially some of the people that have been there a long time. You know, and I think people want to, the problem, well, I'm not going to get into that, but I think the problem is that people just need to be heard. That this is, it's tiring for them. It's tiring for us. I understand that. It's tiring for the people on the, and there were some pretty powerful voices. Mr. Thomas was there that spoke what the increase of 10% when you're already paying, you know, $165, $170 a month for water and sewer for 5,000 gallons, and then you're going up 10%. So I think some of those people just want to be able to be heard. And when you have a hearing that's on a work day in Richmond, you know, people aren't going to be able to make it. Whereas if it's in Caroline in the evening, you know, which was what the last hearing was, it makes it easier for them to at least voice their opinion.
Is there any way, Mr. Black, that there could be some type of committee about that going forward that does the research and have some type of communication with Aqua to?
Yeah, there have been committees formed in Lake.
Are they amenable to meetings?
As far as
Aqua, in terms of, are they amenable to meeting with the citizens who are they're servicing?
Is Aqua?
Yes.
That depends on your locality and depends on your neighborhood. So even here in Caroline, for example, there's big differences within the community. Like for example, right now, in the last hearing, for example, up until just about right now in Lake Caroline, you could turn your faucet on in Lake Caroline and you could have it on all day long and all month long, and you got paid a flat rate.
There were no meters.
There was no meters, right? And so, whereas in Lake Landor, like if you live on the heritage side of Lake Landor, or if you live in Bridlewood subdivision, which is in Mr. Forehand's district, every drop of water that I use, I'm being charged sewer for. So if I'm washing my car
Right,
or watering my plants, they're charging. So it was a very vastly different, even within the county of Caroline, vastly different. And so the relations in the neighborhoods were different. I mean, Aqua has I think they had a better rapport in Lake Caroline than they did in Lake Landor, just because of the fact the way the billing system.
Right, and so that's a good point, and that's why I say if it's possible to pull those communities together to whereas they see the inequity that other folks are facing, perhaps because if you're getting a break and I'm not,
Right. Oh, yeah.
my push for
Right.
against the increase may not
Right.
be that great.
And that's why.
So I think
yeah, and
the meeting, for me anyway, the coming together should be of those folks who are being serviced by Aqua, so they really understand that they are a common team. They're all on the same team in terms of what they're fighting for, and that's
Right.
equity.
Right. But I think your public hearing gives you that. I mean, it's like we have a public hearing on all kinds of different topics here, and I think the public hearing affords the people an opportunity from whatever community they're from to directly go to, because it's on record with the state. When we have a public hearing, it's on record with the hearing examiner, and it's in the record. So that's why it used to be in the past. I think there was before where there was buses rented and they would go down to Richmond. And there's a cost there too, whereas if you bring it, I mean, the State Corporation Commission said yes, and the cost to us in the county was, I mean, as far as having a public hearing is setting up at the Ladysmith Community Center, like just asking staff to set up. So yeah, I agree. There's been water committees, but in the two lakes that they do a lot of that stuff. All I'm asking for is Mr. Emerson, if the board would be amenable to write them a letter, see if they would be willing to have a public hearing here in Caroline. And then when the time comes, we can discuss again to send out a mailer to the residents to if the State Corporation Commission agrees to have the hearing.
That's a fair approach initially, is to say we'd like to have a public hearing here in Caroline.
Yeah.
And I think that's fair. We can all, say yes to
But
that.
I think
we
Mr.
don't know
Emerson,
what it's going to cost yet to go further.
Yeah, I think the only problem is tonight, Mr. Emerson, is I'm not sure if we have to, because there's a certain November deadline, and that's why I think it would be nice to get something from the board tonight, just simply saying that we direct him to do that, simply because the fact that there's a deadline of Mr. Schiebel, I think it's on November 15th or something, with the case. So yeah, so I would move. Then I will go ahead and move that.
All right, give me 1 second before you do that.
Sure.
Mr. Forehand, you have Lake Caroline as part of what you represent.
Lake Caroline, Lake Broadwood, and Campbell's Creek are all on Aqua
Or on
systems.
Aqua Water.
Caroline's on just water. Broadwood, water and sewer, and Campbell's Creek is water and sewer.
Campbell's Creek is
Just sewer.
Campbell's Creek is just water.
No, it's just Mr. Schiebel's just sewer. Water and
Water and sewer, but we process Campbell Creek sewer, right?
Correct.
Aqua's a customer to Caroline County, so we dispose of their sewer.
Right,
but
we dispose
they
of their
charge
sewer.
They charge the customers both water and sewer in Campbell's Creek.
In Lake Caroline, you said it's just water. We process their sewer, Mr. Schiebel?
Lake
Yeah,
Caroline's on
drain
separate.
fields, private drain fields.
Oh, they got all drain fields, okay. They don't have meters in Lake Caroline
They are going through the process of adding meters, from what I understand.
right now. That's kind of what I heard. And
So
all
right
of
now,
go ahead.
I'm sorry, I was going to say they're still having a flat rate. It's $43.53. Currently, it's going to $45, and then once they have the meters, they're being compiled into a new rate tier, and then once they have meters, they'll start falling into that tier. So they've got a flat rate if you don't have a meter. Once you have a meter, you'll start getting charged that meterly rate.
So conceivably, based on water usage, a lot of people in Lake Caroline will see their rates go up, or their fees go up quite a bit.
Yes and no. If you're a vacation homeowner or a single person, a couple that doesn't use a lot of water, then it may go down.
Okay, that's possible.
If you're a family of 5 that's high water consumption, they'll definitely see their rates go up.
And do you have any place like that? You've got Lake Landor.
In Lake Landor, there's two sides. So like the heritage side of Lake Landor is water and sewer, so it's very expensive. Whereas in the Landor side, which I'm on, it's water only because we have the drain field.
Your drain field.
Yep.
Okay. It seems like, and Mr. Black, you know my feeling on this, and I've expressed it to you a couple of weeks ago. I'm not going to mention what it is in public, but we will ask staff to look at some other alternatives. I have no problem with moving ahead for the public hearing. I think we need to, as been said, what's our real end game? Because I, just did a quick search of my email, and I saved just about everything. On this computer, I go back to 2005 with Aqua emails. So every 2 or 3 years, we're going to be here again. This is probably your 5th time doing it in the 7 or 8 years you've been on the board, right?
Yeah, probably fourth time. Yeah.
So, we have to figure out what we're going to do because we're always trying to battle them. Right. And it's really, we're just, I guess the phrase is not really a friend of the court, but we're a friend of the end users. Because the battle is really between State Corporation Commission and Aqua. Aqua's gonna make their case to the State Corporation Commission. We can help that by having citizens' comments, but then they make the final determination, right?
I think that sometimes, though, and I mean, if I may be speaking out of turn here, I think sometimes, though, it feels for the citizens that, the State Corporation Commission is supposed to be the referee. So it's not really supposed to be battling Aqua. They're really supposed to be the referee between the consumer and the company. That's what they're designed for because those companies are naturally monopolies. It has felt to a lot of people that the State Corporation Commission is not really a solid referee at times, that they have been very, very pro Aqua on their rate structure and so forth. So yeah, in the last case, and Mr. Schiebel, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but in the last case, the pairing examiner asked them not to get a rate increase, and then the State Corporation Commission granted it to them.
That's correct. Two things. One, it is November 13th if you actually want to be a participant in the case. And the reason why the State Corporation Commission did not give them an increase last time was because the changes in the taxes. So because the tax law changed.
They did give them an increase. They didn't give them the surcharge. Or they gave them
the authority to do the WISC, the Water and Wastewater Infrastructure Surcharge, but they didn't actually get a rate for their increase. So also in your comparison, this does not include a WISC. So when you're looking at your comparison, right now it resets back to zero. So it can go up 10% as a maximum. So whatever that number is, until they do the rate hearing, it could go up an additional 10% for what we're showing on their rates, proposed rates.
Yep. So like for example, it's like for $5,000, it's for 5,000 gallons, it's $175 a month.
147 for water and wastewater. For 5,000, I'm sorry, is 171.
Yeah, so 171. Okay, and then you could have a 10% surcharge on top of that. So then it would be another $17. So, but anyway,
I'm going to support your proposal, and I hope you support the investigation of mine.
Yes. Well, we'll discuss it. So, anyway, has there been a motion made?
No, you were going to make it, but we stopped you.
So I move that the Board of Supervisors asks or requires Mr. Emerson to ask the State Corporation Commission for a public hearing here in Caroline.
Second.
That's all you want.
You want the county
that's not spending any money.
Post a public hearing.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. I mean, yes, post a public hearing, yes. And then also I'll add to that motion when the time comes, a mailer to go out to the citizens who are affected.
I'll amend my second.
Yeah.
Include those two.
All right, we can take those two. But you're not asking for the $20,000 or the $100,000 at this time.
No.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion? All right. The motion again was to have the county attorney request a public hearing in Caroline for the proposed Aqua rate increase.
Yes.
And at such time that the public hearing is determined to be in Caroline, the board would fund a mailer to all the citizens so they'd be aware of it.
That's correct.
No further discussion. All those in favor of the motion say aye. All those opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Black.
Ben should just be able to take the letter from last time and change some dates and dust it off. That should keep it really, really easy.
I hope he saved that on his, yeah, he's probably saved that on his computer. If not, I got a copy. I'll send it to you. Agenda item number 10 is the use of the Germanna College facility in Carmel Church. We briefly discussed this at our joint meeting with the school board. This one was on at my request. The follow-up for this agenda item is our board representative from Germanna, Mr. Lydell Fortune, is going to arrange a tour of the facility with anyone who would like to be part of the tour. That includes the school system and any Board of Supervisors members. So I'm going to send an email out to the boards and the school board folks that I have their email to make sure we can coordinate that.
Mr.
Mrs.
Chair,
Long?
yes, would you consider asking him also for a report on what classes they did hold during our lease or our assistance with that building, so we sort of have an idea of the type of classes they had and their success? Thank you.
Okay, you want to report on what classes? All right, I think we can get that from him or from Germanna directly. And what classes are possible. Okay. And I think I want to keep this in front of the board as much as possible, because we really don't want to lose this Germanna facility, because once we lose it, we'll probably have an extremely difficult time, if ever, getting it back. So we're going to work for that, what they had and what future classes they can have. And really, we need to market it better. Schools, Germanna, the county, we all need to work together to make this a success. All right, that'll take care of agenda item number 10. We don't want a half an hour break yet. So agenda item number 11 is Mr. Whiteman, or is that Mr. Shebel?
Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
Good evening, Mr. Shebel.
The staff was informed that the Habitat has hired an employee that has some handicap needs that we were trying to meet. Habitat building was built 60 plus years ago, and that facility does not have a bathroom that's handicap accessible. Staff met with Mr. Whiteman, reviewed what we could do to make that facility accessible to be able to work. We've gotten a quote for $6,829 underneath of our new contract to be able to renovate that bathroom. They would actually remove a wall, widen the bathroom, relocate the commode and lines and the sink to provide enough space in there, as well as the grab bars. In addition, the young man that pulls into the back of the facility and is in the gravel, and when it rains, it turns to mud, and he's trying to get in and out of the facility. So we propose of putting in a concrete apron in the back of that building to be able to provide the ease of access, as well as putting in an awning so when he gets out with the equipment to remove the wheelchair from the back of his vehicle and puts that down. So the total proposed cost to do this project is $9,029, and we request that the Board of Supervisors appropriate the funds to be able to move forward with this facilitation out of the unencumbered fund balance. Glad to answer any questions.
That was going to be the question. This was not a budgeted item, so the funds would have to come from the fund balance.
Correct.
Questions for Mr. Shebel? Mr. Underwood or Mr. Forehand, do you have a question? Mr. Underwood.
Mr. Shebel, with the upgrades to the building or the office, that's all that's necessary? Are the buildings an ingress? Are there any other things that need to be done? I don't want to come back later and say, oh, we need to be able to have office space to roll the wheelchair under, or we need access in the hallways, need to maybe move a wall or
Yeah,
So
currently,
are there no other issues there that would make this ADA compliant?
we are not necessarily making the facility ADA compliant. We're making the bathrooms and accessibility to the facility more compliant. To actually bring it into full compliance, we would have to go back and really look at what that would cost. The front of the building has a step in the front of it that would have to be upgraded. There's an additional bathroom that would have to be completely redone.
If there's a complaint though, at some point we would probably have to
Well-
make full compliance, correct?
No, the building
No.
currently meets code as when
It
it
does
was
meet
built.
code, okay.
So we don't have to do anything by
Other
the
than what
way
you
the
just-
law, you don't have to do anything the way the
Right.
law is written right now.
Okay.
The facility is compliant with ADA when the facility was built.
Gotcha.
So we're going above and beyond trying to make this facility
It's-
accessible.
gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's not a new facility which
Right.
requires
N-
it be ADA compliant, or it's not being renovated, which would require it being ADA compliant. What we have is an employee who has basically worked around whatever we've given him, and now he through his manager, this is coming from the director of Habitat, he is asking that we help the employee handle his situation a little bit better. So I think this is a win-win for both of us. The employee's not asking for the moon. The employee's been able to work through all of the issues he had before, but we just need to make sure it's a little better for all of us. Mr. Poirier, you had a question?
Ms. Sheba, you said awning. I just want to make sure that's a concrete awning, not an overhead awning.
No, an overhead head on it. We'd do an apron below,
Okay.
which would provide a concrete apron that it would actually be able to take the winch that he's got to pick up the device and put the wheelchair down on a concrete slab and provide a smooth entrance into the facility. And then we put a small awning so that when he's trying to open the door to help protect him as he's trying to get in.
Not an elaborate covered
Covered
parking area. It's just-
$400 is what we had estimated for that.
Mr.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Long?
Well, I just also want to state that this building's also used by Caroline's Promise, correct?
Correct.
So there could be other people that come in that could use this improvement. And then just a quick thing, have you checked with any of our friends at Luckstone or Cheney for free concrete?
We haven't.
Since
Last time we
it's,
did that with Fire and Rescue Building, the free concrete, actually, the rate that's on the street was cheaper than the rate that they gave us a discount on, so it wasn't much of a discount per se.
Okay, it's just a thought.
Motion's in order.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we appropriate $9,029 out of the unencumbered balance to improve Caroline Promise / Habitat for Humanity office.
Is there a second,
Second.
Mr. Underwood? Second, Mr. Black? Mr. Underwood's made the motion, second by Mr. Black, that we approve the proposed amendments to the Promise Habitat Building on Main Street. Discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. The motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you. $9,029. I saw Mr. Mills come in. Hi, Mr. Mills. Would the board like to take up agenda item number 6 at this time, which is the review of special exception 03-2019 Virginia Sports Park Complex Associates. Mr. Mills, as always, good to see you here, sir. And we did get your email, or I got your email. I'm not sure the rest of the board got it, but I got your email.
Sir?
The floor is yours, sir.
When I was in here before, last thing I was told was come back in, don't say anything. I'll try to not say too much, but just show you that I had a contract for the drain field. And we've got our permit from the state of Virginia. Got a contract with Drain Field Solutions. We're set and ready to go. I'm with you.
Well, actually, the unfinished business was we were going to revoke your special exception permit. So I take it we're not going to revoke his special exception permit since he's got his contract for the drain field.
That's correct.
Is that the feeling of the board?
I think Mr. Mills has pushed everything through that we've asked, and while it's good to see. It is a good facility. Could be great. So I know we've been kind of tough on you at times, but it's county love. That's all we got. So we
I
appreciate
grew up with a
it.
grandfather that gave me a lot of that tough love, so
Yeah.
it's not a problem. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You like it, Mr. Mills?
I'm not gonna say I like it, but I'm used to it.
Mr. Forehand?
Yes, sir.
Do you have an ETA for, or is this weather
Yeah,
permitting?
Again, I've done everything I can do, and now I'm kind of at the mercy of weather and contractors and everything else. So,
I know there was
Yes.
one of the steps
Did you
for the
get the
process was getting the stuff ordered and actually present.
correct.
That's all in line?
Well, I just signed the contract with them, so I doubt they've actually
Okay.
ordered because it was just within the last couple of days. But I would say within the next week or so, they'd have everything ordered. They've got the new specs from the engineer, and I've given them everything I can for them to go ahead and place that order.
Is there a time element in the contract?
I know that there was like a December 1st approximate start date, but I don't know if there's a completion date. Just because of, again, weather and whatever else.
Sure.
My understanding that the contract had 90 days for the, 30 days to order and acquire the parts, and then 90 days installation from that. So 120 days. You figure some weather issues, be another 10 days, so 130 days would seem to be realistic. Pending significantly more adverse weather to complete the job.
All right, that's great. I just, generally contracts to be valid need a time element, and that seems to be a concern of the board, so I would just question if that was included. So, thank you. And the rebranding, at least from the road, looks good.
Thank you, sir.
Ms. Long?
Yes, Mr. Mills, I just wanted to remind you in that time, you got to keep up with that pump and haul. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Mr. Mills, we were here, I guess the issue was to revoke your special exception or to continue your special exception. So you've basically said you did what you were supposed to do, you've got a contract. Do you expect us to believe that in 130 days you'll have a drain field?
That's my belief. Like I said, I've done everything I can do now. It's in the hands of the contractors and the weather. I'm not holding anything up. I can't speed it. So that's my expectation, same as you guys.
Okay, and you made a down payment or something on this contract?
Yeah, we have to do 1/3 and then the rest of it as the project.
1/3 is signing?
Correct.
And you made
Yes.
that 1/3 payment?
It's in an account. I don't know that they've withdrawn it until they actually place the order and everything.
Okay, how does the board wish to handle this matter? Mr. Underwood, I believe that's now your district. Would you like to,
Is there anything necessary?
Yeah.
yeah, the action item was to revoke his special exception permit.
That we just defer it for 180 days?
120.
That's-
If we defer just to make sure everything is in order, would that be acceptable, Mr. Mills?
Sure, as long as we're just along in the process and y'all are happy, if I have to
Okay.
come back in and show you where we
Right.
are in the process or something,
That's what.
Show us the
Absolutely.
drain field when you come back.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chairman, that we delay the revocation of special exception 03-2019 for 120 days.
130 is what Mr. Fincham said, but there's
130, Mr. Fincher? 130 days.
Does that, Mr. Fincham, just a point of clarification, does that exceed our year-long handling of this process? Or since it was a revocation, we have as much time as we
No,
want?
sir. It was the board's motion to hold a public hearing
Right.
for revocation. It's not an application
So
for
we-
a new project. So I think you could defer it for the 130 days or the closest available board meeting date. Is
Okay.
what we'd look at.
We will allow you and Mr. Cully to figure out what 130 days from now is in the next board meeting. So, Mr. Mills, we thank you for all the work you've done.
Thank you.
You're moving ahead, as Mrs. Long said, keep up with the pump and haul permits. And we'll see you in 130 days. I'm not sure what, you'll need to bring to us then, a completion statement or something like that, but we look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, we're not stopping you from doing anything. So you have the board's blessing to keep moving on and keep making progress.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice evening.
You too. Excuse me? The motion was made by Mr. Underwood,
Second.
and Mrs. Long made the second. We were wishing Mr. Mills good luck before we took the vote, so, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. So the motion carries unanimously that he will come back in 130 days to, discuss his revocation of the special exception permit. All right. You ready now? We can. Oh, my phone is dead. Public hearings are 3, 4, and 5. We did 6. We have 12. Thank you. Okay, we have 12 to do. That's usually what we do last. We have about 20 minutes for a break. Let's do quickly the broadband thing. Mr. Cully, do you have anything that you want us to talk about as far as item 12? Calendar items and things of that nature? Informational items? Oh, schedule for Board of Supervisors school board meetings?
As always, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, we have our status of capital projects for your review. Our calendar has been like it has been for most of COVID. We don't really have anything on there. You do know Election Day, Tuesday the 3rd. We do have the annual VACO conference, which will be virtual if you need to sign up for that. Remember, Tuesday the 3rd, Election Day is a holiday. State holiday. Offices are closed other than the registrar, and I have IT people working to support the registrar. Board meetings on the 12th, as we mentioned earlier, and then we're closed half a day on the 25th, and then the 26th and 27th for Thanksgiving as a normal every year. So I don't really have anything other than that. I haven't heard anything more about dates. I think the dates for the schools, we're going to work that directly, I thought, with Mr. Seeley.
That was chairman to chairman, so
Yeah,
since
so I
he's
haven't
not
seen
here, we don't
anything
have
on
anything
any of
for that. And he was gonna work
So-
out the other date.
And that was supposed to be January, so we still have time to discuss that at our November meeting.
All right, any questions for Mr. Cully? None?
One question.
Go ahead.
Regarding the, I think we were gonna have an engineering study on the poles at the rec park. And the
I pretty much shut that project down when we went into COVID shutdown and we're worried about funding. So anything capital projects wise we could stop, I stopped. So that was stopped. I know Mr. Shebel had some work done on that because there was actually an expenditure.
yeah, that's what I was seeing the
and
expenditure.
I think that he can explain that a little
Looks like a
bit.
consulting fee.
Correct.
That's correct. We hired Draper Aiden and Associates to come out and evaluate the condition of the poles. We were concerned about the cracks within the poles as well as the ground. They said that if we were looking at a 10-year project, that the poles would be fine for 10 years. I told them that, we were looking to invest, for a complete new setup of lights of $300,000 and that to, a 30-year life expectancy plus, and they said the poles would not work for that. So we did ask them also to evaluate whether we could reuse those at a shorter length to possibly put onto the soccer field. And they said that they thought that could be done, but we'd have to evaluate the poles once they came out of the ground to look at what's buried. But they felt we got a 10-year life left on the
Okay,
poles.
so that's good news. Thank you.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's the county part.
On your broadband discussion, I would add that we did receive notice that there's another round of CARES money. I think it was 20 million or 30 million. The numbers get so it's just competitive.
million.
You have to can apply for, but it's got the same restrictions as our CARES money and has to be completed by December. And
Yes.
so Mr. Saddles reached out both to Atlantic Broadband and Comcast, and neither one are able to do anything in that tight time frame other than what Atlantic Broadband's already doing for us on Newtown Road. So
Right.
we may come up with a few projects of things that we can increase some speed at some places. That's one of the things that's eligible is you can increase for a year some speed with your existing provider. So we may be able to do that at a couple of places and have that CARES money pay for that. And maybe there are some other pieces of hardware that we can get that would be useful. But we've already done so much with our CARES money. I don't know if that we're going to be able to get a lot of that money. It's nice when somebody puts out, oh, it's all this money available, but then they put a 2-month window to spend it. And I mean, there's engineering work would have to be done on expanding broadband by any of those companies, and they just can't. They can't pull that off, and much less complete it in that time frame.
Yeah, it's like the movie Brewster's Millions. We can't spend all this
Right,
money
correct,
to get the rest.
correct.
Mr. Sadler and I discussed that this morning, so that was one of the things. But while you were standing there saying that, and I was looking out at Dr. Monroe and Ms. Stevens, maybe we could apply for one or two of those school bus Wi-Fi things that we
Right.
discussed about it.
We talked about that.
Yeah, more than that. If that's something we can do, no, it's a grant. It's a grant. It's just competitive.
I think it's just competitive right now. If you just need to.
Well, let's try to pursue that, Mr. Sadler. I think we'll have to work with the school's representative, but I thought it was like $10,000 or something. 6 is probably a round number that would fit each board member's desire. So we could look at 6 of those. 12 would be 6 or 12, multiples of 6. So we could make sure we covered at least each district if that was the case. And of course, we all understand that's going to be subject to the actual bandwidth that's available, but we would be making another access point available for all those students that are out there.
There are some other innovative things I've gotten from companies that have been sending us stuff on trailers with and the power.
Yeah, with antennas and things.
With antennas and solar panels and the whole 9 yards, so they're sort of self-sufficient once you put them in an area too. I don't know how the bus thing works, but just to run some of that, you got to have some power.
Okay, well,
so we could look at all those type of things and see if there's any of them we could apply for. But it's mainly for expanding it, and it's just really hard to do. It's up on one of these temporary things.
Well, that was part of the report I was going to do, and let's save the rest of that for when we're done with those, and have one long discussion about broadband. All right. Okay. Can you wait this long?
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, be careful about, I like the idea of the trailers, because school buses, they're picking up kids, so.
Oh, no, in this case, it would be just a school bus with an antenna on. All right, I think we're close enough to now take a 15-minute break, and we can come back. 7:30 is when we'll have public comment, followed by our public hearings. We've got 3 public hearings, and then we'll be basically done for the evening. So 15-minute break. We'll be back close to 7:30 in supervisor minutes. All right, we'll reconvene the October 13th meeting of Board of Supervisors. At this time, as always, at 7:30, we offer citizens an opportunity to speak to the board about any subject that is not a public hearing. So at this time, I will open the public comment section of our agenda. If there's any citizen who would like to speak, please come forward. Public comments are open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak on any matter that's not a public hearing? Anyone who would like to speak? Last call. Anyone who'd like to speak? Hearing none. We'll close the public comment section, move to agenda item number 3, public hearings. We have our first one, RZ05-2020, Carmel Church Station, LLC. That is in Mr. Underwood's district. Mr. Fincham, if you're ready.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your first public hearing tonight is RZ05-2020, Carmel Church Station, LLC, Caroline 40, LLC, Caroline 544, LLC, Caroline 225, LLC, and Carmel Church Station Town Center, LLC. Owner and applicant are requesting a rezoning from PMUD, Planned Mixed-Use Development, with a density of 8.2 dwelling units per acre and 3.16 million square feet of office, commercial, and industrial space to the same zoning district and densities, consisting of approximately 988 acres, more or less. The property is generally bounded by Interstate 95, Route 207, Route 1, and the Hanover-Caroline County line. Comprehensive plan designates this as the Carmel Church Urban Development Area and is planned mixed use. The purpose of the rezoning is to amend the Carmel Church Station Development Regulations previously approved with RZ 08-2009 dated June 10, 2010, specifically to modify Article 3.7 Administration to extend the time frame for which a site plan of development for the project may be submitted. You have a fairly voluminous staff report with the development regulations, so I'll try to simplify it for the board. Back when the board approved the Carmel Church Station project, we actually amended the PMUD regulations to fit the rezoning. One of those regulations required a site plan for the first section of the project to be submitted within 3 years of the date of approval of the rezoning. We've long since blown by that 3-year time limit. The owners are working with prospective developers of the site, and in order to proceed forward, have requested an amendment of that article to give them additional 5 years to record the first site plan for that project that would allow the project to go forward. In a nutshell, that's what this zoning amendment is all about.
Well, that made it quite simple, Mr. Fincham. So we're basically looking at extending the time period for the site plan to 5 years.
Amending Article 3.7 of the development regulations to give them an additional 5 years to record their first site plan. Yes, sir.
5 years from today, or 5 years from
5
the
years
3
from
years
the date
they
of
didn't?
approval.
Okay, and they haven't had anything approved yet?
Of this rezoning. Yes.
Of this rezoning, okay. Any questions for Mr. Fincham at this time? Questions for Mr. Fincham? Okay, we will declare the public hearing for RZ 05-2020 to be open. Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who'd like to speak regarding this matter? I believe the attorney for the firm is here. Do you have anything to say? Or maybe not. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak regarding this matter? Hearing none, we'll declare the public hearing to be closed. This time, a motion would be in order, or further discussion. Mr. Underwood?
Mr. Chairman, we're going to continue to, my opinion is we need to continue to work to help them to develop this, large parcel of properties. So I'd make a motion that we, extend the time based on Article 3.7 of RZ 05-2020, Carmel Church Station.
Specifically giving them 5 years.
Giving them 5 years from this
this
date.
particular action.
Yes.
Okay, that's Mr. Underwood's motion. Is there any, second?
Second.
Seconded by Mrs. Long. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. And item number 3 is taken care of. Number 4, RZ 06-2020, Ernest and Yolanda Johnson, owner applicant, request rezoning from rural preservation. Mr. Fincham.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, your next public hearing is RZ 06-2020. Ernest and Yolanda Johnson, owner and applicant, requesting a rezoning from rural preservation, conditional with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 10 acres of land, to the same zoning on tax map 41-A-99A, which contains approximately 2 acres of land. The property is located at 12,469 Page Road in the Woodford in the Port Royal voting district. The proposed use is residential, and the 2030 comprehensive plan identifies this property as agricultural preservation with a density of 1 dwelling unit per 25 acres of land. The purpose of the rezoning is to remove the proffers associated with RZ 03-2012. There have actually been 3 different zoning amendments on this particular piece of property. Back in 1997, there was a 4-acre tract which was rezoned from rural preservation to RR2, which allows 2 acres per dwelling unit, for the purposes of a family division to allow Mr. and Ms. Johnson to have a 2-acre lot. In 2012, due to some health issues related to the family, the applicant, the owners requested a rezoning from RR2 back to rural preservation to allow them to construct a family apartment on the property, which is allowed as an accessory use under the RP zoning district. The Board of Supervisors approved that zoning with some conditions that tied that family apartment and that rezoning specifically to Mr. and Ms. Johnson and her daughter. The family has continued to experience some health-related issues and have again applied for a rezoning to be relieved of the proffers that were associated or agreed to and accepted with the 2012 rezoning application. The Johnsons, as I understand it, are moving to Fredericksburg to be closer to medical facilities in that area, have the primary dwelling as well as the accessory dwelling, which by the 2012 zoning was required to be removed if it was no longer needed by an immediate family member of Mr. and Ms. Johnson. That's it.
Any questions at this time for Mr. Fincham?
Mr. Fincham, what type of structure was the quote-unquote family apartment?
It was actually a site-built structure, which is why it took so long.
So foundation, footers?
Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I think the original intention was to have a prefab home placed there, but they decided to do a little something different. Long questions? For
Yes.
Mr. Fincham?
No, I really don't have any questions, except you'll have to help me make this motion correctly. Although I certainly do not agree with the planning zoning practices of playing ping pong with zoning. However, in this case, since this is not a mobile home that was considered back in 2012 that could be removed, this is a um, site-built facility, it is unreasonable and I feel would be an unfair burden on this family to ask them to dismantle it. Therefore,
You need to have your public
yeah.
hearing.
So, you know, I think we need to consider everything as far as the zonings go.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Long. I am going to open a public hearing for RZ 06-2020. Public hearing is open. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Mans?
I'm Mike Mans from Bowling Green, Virginia, and Mr. and Ms. Johnson had asked me to help them in the sale of their house so that they could do just what Mr. Fincham was speaking about and get into Fredericksburg and be closer to doctors and family. But we ran into this problem, and I just prepared a couple of sentences that might help us so that I don't get off on a rabbit trail. But this is basically what, as I understand it, difficulty, and we're just trying to help our friends here. The original zoning proffers has placed an unusual restriction on the property which required an immediate relative of the Johnsons to live in the additional dwelling, even if the Johnsons sold the property. This would make it almost impossible, in my opinion, as a real estate agent, for the Johnsons to sell the house without suffering a great loss. As only someone in their immediate family could ever legally live in the additional dwelling. And it is quite a bit more than a mobile home. It is a very nice property that's within the 1,000 square foot limit. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused much unrest to all of us, but especially to the elderly. This has made Mr. and Mrs. Johnson realize that they need to be closer to family and to hospitals. Both Mr. and Mrs. Johnson are advanced in age and in declining health and have real difficulty getting around, as you've seen tonight. Due to these reasons, with a reasonable remedy available to us here tonight, we're asking the board for your understanding and your help in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone else who would like to speak regarding this matter? Anyone else who would like to speak? Hearing none, we'll declare the public hearing for RZ 06-2020 to be closed. Mrs. Long, you were saying?
Yes, thank you. Is that I think we need to move ahead and remove the conditions from 2012, but this is still going to be a family apartment and will still have to fall under the section, is it section 3 of the zoning article? But at least that way they don't have to destroy a perfectly good home, which would just be a waste for everybody.
Ms. Long,
Yes.
for the record, we do have the executed proffer that was offered related to the family apartment.
Okay.
So if you're looking for a motion, the appropriate motion would be to approve the rezoning with the proffers as amended.
Then I will make that motion with the proffers as amended.
Thank you,
And
Mrs. Long.
it's in the board packet here.
All right, I appreciate that. I planned on seconding it myself. All right, then I'll make the second, since I started with Mrs. Johnson on this process many years ago. So any other discussion?
Mr. Fincham? Mr. Fincham?
busy cleaning.
Mr. Fincham.
Yes, sir.
Hey, how are
Sorry.
you? Doing a good job.
Doing my other job.
Yeah. I guess I'm just kind of confused and looking over this. The planning commission unanimously denied this.
Yes, sir.
And then it says minutes are not available.
It was an expedited public hearing. It just went to the planning commission. They held their public hearing at the end of September.
So I'm sure you were at that meeting then. Can you summarize what was the thinking behind the planning commission? I know there's some stuff in there for the denial.
The thinking was that the economics was not, it was an issue of value of the property, and that was not one of the zoning considerations set forth in the state code.
How often is it that you have a property rezoned this many times?
Very few. This is the only one that I can remember, to be honest with you.
Okay. If the board were to approve this, does this set precedent?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Hopefully, we won't be bringing any other cases where you have multiple zonings over a period of years. This, like I said, this is the only one I can think of.
Thank you.
How many family apartments do we have currently in use in the county?
I don't have that answer off the top of my head, Mr. Forehand.
More than 10, you think?
More? Oh, definitely.
Okay. That's the right question to ask. Do we go down this road with every other one that this board has allowed in the past 25 years, 30 years, 50 years?
I think
You probably have not more than 10 zonings where the purpose of the rezoning was for a family apartment. That's a relatively small number compared to the number of units where it meets the ordinance requirements and are allowed as an accessory use.
Chair.
And I think we have extenuating circumstances in this particular case, and I think the
I'm
board.
sure everyone has an extenuating circumstance to request a family
True.
apartment on their property.
Well, we do have the family subdivision rule,
Which is different.
which is different.
Yeah.
But when there is a medical emergency in the family subdivision rule, the board has without a doubt let the applicant out of that, restriction. I don't know anyone in my entire career that we've turned down with a medical emergency.
We've applied strings to all of those that I've been a party of, and now we're taking scissors and cutting every one of those strings that we attached.
No, not necessarily. No.
The way I'm reading the new proffers, that
The only, Mr. Forehand, if I could, the only condition that is taken out is that they have to remove the building when they sell the property. Because originally it was supposed to be a modular, and they did a more upscale. But all the others, the other family apartment conditions will still be attached to this zoning. So it's just keeping the property from being, the structure from being destroyed.
The proffer that they have offered ensures that it will comply with the family apartment provisions for the next 3 years.
Right.
Which those are the standard provisions set forth in our ordinance.
okay, it's basically what's proffered now is taking it to where it would be right now
If it were otherwise
if it were-
allowed as an accessory use, yes, sir.
And it seemed to me that they had a couple of more restrictive requirements than normal because of what you're saying. And now it's, and I'm sure Mr. Manns is the real estate agent. I'm not going to ask him his business, but I'm pretty sure a house with a mother-in-law suite is a lot more attractive to buyers that are out there, or a family suite could be for a child. So I think it's, better than what we could. And again, me as a board member, speaking for me, I'm going to work for anybody in the county who comes to us with circumstances such as this to try to make sure they can stay in the county.
Well, they're not staying in the county.
That was the original part.
Okay. And I get that. This property is completely in the backyard.
Right.
And it's not, looking at the aerial photo, it's obviously, it's not intended to be a rented dwelling, or, you know, everything looks as if it was done exactly as intended. I mean, nobody in their right mind would build it there if they had a choice otherwise. It were for other purposes. So, all right. With that said, like I said,
We're still in this
I'm better
discussion
with it.
phase.
I'm better with it. If it's taking it to where we are, to what anybody off the street would be able to get right now for the same type of property. I don't think that demolishing it, I think that would be a waste. But making a rental unit in 3 years is the part I'm having an issue with.
But that's the standard process, though, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's the part that.
And that's something that we can certainly revisit. I mean, this ordinance is well over 15 years old. And perhaps it's time to revisit some of those family provisions in the ordinance.
Well, if it takes it to where we are right now, then all right, my objection is no longer. So.
Mr. Black, you still have your mic on? You finished?
I'm done.
Okay. Mrs. Long, you made the motion. Mr. Underwood allowed me to make the second. Discussion's finished. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimous. So your rezoning is complete. That takes care of agenda item number 4. Can we skip agenda item number 5? All right, moving to agenda item number 5. Proposed amendments to Chapter 93-1, Schedule of Fees and Levies for Public Utilities of the Code of Caroline County. Mr. Schiebel.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Your third public hearing tonight is on the proposed amendment to Chapter 93-1, Schedule of Fees and Levies for Public Utilities. At your September 8th meeting, we discussed the Davenport Utility Rate Study and presented the proposed utility rates through 2023. The annual Virginia Water and Wastewater Rate Report demonstrated over the last 10 years, water and sewer rates in the Commonwealth have increased by approximately 3.9% and 4.4% respectively, while Caroline County's rates only increased by 1.5% and 1% respectively. Caroline County has not had a water rate increase in over 6 years, while sewer rates have not increased in over 8 years. Davenport revealed over the last 5 years, the operating expenditures have grown by nearly 25%, or 5% each year over the last 5 years. At the same time, our revenues have not increased at all. In other words, the cost of doing business has increased by 5% each year, but the revenues have remained flat over the last 5 years. Davenport further explained that the Utilities Department days of cash on hand, which is currently 0, while ideally we should have a minimum of 365 days of cash on hand. He stated a reasonable target for Caroline County should be 90 days of cash on hand. With the proposed rates, we would be able to build this over the next 5 years. In addition, the Dawn wastewater system operating revenues have fallen short over the operational expenditures for the last 5 years, approximately $14,000 a year. During the board work session, many alternative case studies were presented to the board, ranging from 4.5% to as much as 9% increase to meet our goals. It's important to note that even at the higher end of 9%, the utilities in Caroline County will still depend upon the general fund to help pay for its debt service. Based on the input from the board work session, staff recommended in year 1 for January 1 a change to the capital asset fee and a 5% increase in user fees. In addition, years 2 through 4, a 5% increase in user fees is outlined in my memo. In addition, a change to the septage fee would increase to $40 from $36.75 per 1,000 gallons. A public hearing has been properly advertised in both the Freelance Star and the county's webpage in accordance with Virginia Code. I'll be glad to answer any questions that the board may have.
At this time, do board members have any questions of Mr. Schiebel? No questions, Mr. Schiebel. Thank you very much. So at this time, we will open the public hearing for the proposed rate increases for the public utility system in Caroline County. Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Is there anyone who would like to speak regarding this matter? Last chance, is there anyone who would like to speak on the rate increase on the utility system? Hearing none, public hearings declared closed. Board member questions, comments first. Questions, comments? All right, I got one. Mr. Shebel,
Yes, sir.
according to your plan, when would this rate increase take effect?
January 1st of 2021.
January 1st, 2021. Okay. Any other questions?
I guess I have a comment.
Comment?
My only comment is, you know, I've made it before. I don't think it's appropriate for just those persons to contribute to this increase. I realize we want the public utility to be self-sufficient. We're not where we need to be. I just think looking at those few people, I just don't think it's fair. I don't think it's fair.
And another question, Mr. Colley. Let me ask you a question, and I'm sure you've got this in your budget somewhere. What would be the impact if we made the effective date July 1 as opposed to January 1?
I'm pretty sure we budgeted for this in last year's budget as well. So we lost it in 20 because we never got it done. So lose another whole year. So I don't remember how much that is.
Well, we lose half a year.
Yeah, but if I budgeted it again for this year, and then we're just now getting it done.
Yeah. Well, I'm just thinking. I'm sure Mr. Shebel's got that in his numbers.
So it's about $60,000 we may collect between January and July.
I mean, again, my point as it was when we had the work session, and my point now is that this system provides a great deal of revenue for the entire county. And now we're going to have just the people who are using the system bear the brunt of the increase without spreading that increase throughout the entire county.
Well, yes and no, but if we're getting ready to expand and I'm a user, so obviously I'm paying this increase, but
yeah, but you have a very good job, and there are a lot of people who don't.
Well, no, I get that, but with that, we are getting ready to add debt service, which the county's paying 100% well, not 100%, because we do cover some operations and debt service with our current rates. But if we add the projects we talked about in the work session this afternoon, then that'll pretty much wholly be covered by all the citizens of the county. And obviously there's a benefit to all the citizens of the county, so I'm not arguing your point that I do believe it benefits everybody. And clearly I don't want my rates to go up, but I think we've struggled with this over a number of years and can show that we're sort of falling behind. And it does also hurt us if we go to try to get any low interest loans or other things that may be out there as we go to do some of these projects they'll look at us and say our rates aren't where they need to be. And I think that's been a part of problems in the past. So I think this puts us in a path where we don't go up 20% all at once or 25% or whatever, but we need to get a little bit I mean,
I understand what you're saying, and my point again is that the rates, your user is going to go up. I still contend you've got a very good job.
I agree.
I think in the throes of COVID and job uncertainty, I don't necessarily want to raise anybody's rates on anything. That's my personal feeling right now. which is why I would say we wait till July 1st. Hopefully, we'll have a little better, or we'll see light at the end of this tunnel. If it's not a train coming at us, but
Yeah, let's hope.
we would hope there's light at the end of the tunnel, so we would be in a better position. $60,000 is not going to break the county in any way, shape, or form.
Correct, we're not gonna go broke in utilities.
Mr.
Get it
Tom,
done,
I
it
will,
should be done.
We're still,
I
we're
will-
still discussing.
We'll point out that commercial businesses that are bringing services to the county they are paying a noticeably higher rate than what residents are. So
Yes,
they are pulling their weight plus some,
Yes.
as far as their base fees and their consumption.
and I would contend that some of those businesses have had significant financial impact due to the COVID crisis. I don't think there's as many people that stop at the
I'm clearly guess.
restaurant that's down there, if it's still open or
Yes,
closed. whatever.
clearly our businesses in Carmel Church have seen a slowdown in traffic, because it's
Right.
that whole area very much generated by traffic volume, and you can see when you're down there, it hadn't all summer had the traffic volume it normally would have, so.
Yeah, so we're basically, we're asking everybody to pay for that, business users, and they're all suffering a little bit, and I'm just saying, I understand it's been my mission to keep the rates low and not raise them, and after 6 years, I think I've done a great job. I'm willing to say
Majority.
maybe we should raise it a little bit, but I think right now we can, give them a little more leeway and wait till July 1st. So that's still discussion. Mrs. Long, you want to discuss?
Well, my only comment would be to your comment about only certain people are paying. They're paying for a service. And just as when we did the school referendum bond, people who didn't have children still pay that tax. People in your rural areas who are not on county water system still are going to pay the increase in taxes when we borrow money to upgrade facilities. So everyone is part of our water and sewer system because we all pay taxes, and we all give one way or the other. Maybe the rural counties help the air stay cleaner and the water stay cleaner and keep us from getting penalized. Maybe it's a source of water in the future. But yeah, we're all in this together, so it's not that the rural residents are not doing their share. I just wanted to bring that up.
Oh, no, and nobody says they're not doing their share. Mr. Shebel, you've got this number, I'm sure, off the top of your head. How much does every household or every house receive from the Carmel Church system? Was it $433? That sticks in my head. I know you've got that number at the top of your head. Every family in the county, whether they're on the system or not, because of all the revenue generated from the system, receives $400 or $500 in less real estate tax. Everybody.
Sorry, I was hoping I didn't look that
We're not
obvious on the screen.
asking for
point.
you, sir.
It is getting a little boring, though.
Yeah, you should try it from this side.
So an average home in Caroline County was worth $189,985. That home would save $373.38, an annual savings on their tax rate, which is basically 19.5 cents that the businesses are picking up that we would not have. So essentially, we would have to raise our taxes 19.5 cents if we had no business connected to the county's utility system. So it's 373, rounded up 374.
And that's assuming that all businesses in the county are on the.
This was strictly
No,
based
just the Carmel
on,
Church.
this was
It's not
real
all
estate,
business.
B-poll, meals tax, personal property sales tax to businesses that are currently connected to the county's utility system. So assuming that they wouldn't be here otherwise.
So would the board be willing to go to July 1st?
That's what it takes for you to vote yes?
Oh, I'm still gonna vote no, but if we can do July 1st, I'll feel much better and I'll vote no
No, I
quietly.
mean, can we set it in stone
No,
today
wait, no.
as if we go to July 1st, these rates go into effect?
Yes, sir.
So
That's-
then it's not, if it's July, I mean,
Yeah, it's July 1st. July 1st is what he
so
said it was
you're
gonna
voting
be.
yes then for July 1st?
No, I'm gonna vote no,
No, then
but
let's
it's
spend this
July
January
1st.
1st. What do you think, January 1st or July 1st?
We're gonna vote July 1st.
January?
All right, I'll vote yes then.
No, you won't.
This is such a crook. This is not how government works,
Yeah, right.
is it?
No.
All right, July 1st. All right, we're gonna go for July 1st. Is that the motion you're making, Mr. Forehand?
I said I could go either way. I don't have a strong opinion for either date. But if I'm forced to make a motion, I'll go with
You
what
can
staff
vote.
wants to do and say January 1st.
I mean, you can vote no.
Anybody else want to make a motion?
We're gonna do July 1st. Do July 1st. We'll vote yes. Come on. It's $60,000. We're not gonna go broke. It gives all those people a chance to get over
And
COVID.
drill their own wells. They don't have to have.
It gives a chance to get over COVID. That's all we're doing. We're saying, okay, we understand it's hard times.
What a salesman.
Make the motion for July 1st.
I can do that. I think with the economic conditions and what's going on, anything we can do to help our citizens try to get over the hump, I think. It may not be much to us, but certainly I think any kind of break we could give them. So I'd make a motion that we would put the proposed rate in effect as of July 1 of 2021.
I'll second.
Is there any more discussion required? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say no. Motion carries semi-unanimously. All right, we're gonna make the race effective July 1st. That gives us a chance. So, thank you, Mr. Shebel, Mr. Cully, board members. That basically concludes our agenda for this evening. The one thing I had was just to give you a broadband report, and Mr. Cully and Mr. Sadler had talked a few things about it. I put together a report, but I didn't get a chance to email it to the board. And I really just wanted to go over where we are and what we're trying to do and some of the things we need to think about. Because I know some board members have made comments about what's going on. So the existing projects that we have is basically the VATI grant, and that's done through the State Department of Housing and Community Development. Our bid was submitted with Atlantic Broadband, and Matthews County was the lead county along with Caroline, Lancaster, and Middlesex. The expected award announcement is late November, early December. The project covers Route 17 and some expansion areas around 207, 639, and Panola Road.
Mr. Thomas, is that just given to one of those counties?
No, all 4 counties are part of a
Okay.
conglomerate.
Okay.
That's another thing. So that's the VATI grant project. That project will be awarded to Caroline. I'm trying to put the good thought in our head. But it will take several years to totally complete. Maybe not several, but it'll be at least a year worth of project. The other ones we have is the Atlantic Broadband project on Sparta Road. That's a connection coming from outside the county along Sparta Road to 301, and then possibly back to Bowling Green. The project is still progressing and should reach Route 301 in early 2021. At that point, the board can discuss going down 301 to connect to some other possible businesses. And we are having discussions with our other cable service providers to expand service in that area. Several contacts have been made, and it appears that at least half of the Board of Supervisors has been in touch with that particular provider, and we probably need to streamline that to maybe just Mr. Sadler or something like that. We had intended to or attempted to use CARES funding to help pay for that expansion, but we realized that with the restrictions and the time limit of CARES, we decided to not do that. Discussions of county funding have not been formalized yet, but they should be formalized when we actually get a construction estimate. Hopefully we will get that soon. I think they were waiting on some data from the county. The Commonwealth Connect Coalition Grant, which Mr. Cully mentioned, is $30 million for localities. Mr. Sadler and I discussed that today again and found that we had no shovel-ready projects that we could take advantage of, but I think we just discovered maybe the school bus projects or the power projects that you talked about might be something to try to grant for. The grant is due December, or the applications are due back when? Okay, it's like the beginning of November or something like that. Oh, okay. It's kind of hard to read your lips through the mask. Very soon? Okay. Okay. Mr. Sadler just said very soon. Now, we do have some other resources available I think the board should know about. One is the fixed wireless provider that we talked to at the broadband committee, and that's a possibility of using that technology. It's based on line of sight technology, which I think we talked about before. But the good thing is they can connect to an existing fiber cable and then send their signal out from there. So the more we expand our fiber, the better the chances are to add something like that. We also are talking to, or Mr. Sadler is talking to, the Department of Housing and Community Development for additional services, and I have been in contact not only with Congressman Whitman and every fireside chat I think he's had with the FCC, but also with Mr. Evan Feynman, who's the Chief Broadband Advisor for the governor. He is willing to come and meet with us. I think Mr. Black had asked for a work session on broadband. And that gets us to the needs of where we are. Mr. Sadler, unfortunately, has a full-time job being the county's IT director, so he doesn't have time or resources to be the county's full-time broadband coordinator. So we either need some additional staffing to help him in his current job or help him in his broadband job. So we need to look at that as soon as possible. Now, we could do a couple of things. We could hire a technical consultant, which would help us look at things, or we could hire some staff, and I think that's something the board needs to decide. And last but not least, the board is going to get into the position of deciding where to serve, who to serve. We may get to the point of saying, let's go this route, which serves the most people, or let's go this route, which serves the most unserved people. So those are things we'll have to decide collectively as a board, and it would be a good idea to have a technical consultant, help us work through that. So,
Of course, that will also depend on the regulations and the grants as to how we select what area grants should go to, if we have more grants.
That's the other part of the discussion we had today was we don't have a grant writer in-house, so if there's a consultant, grant writer, consultant, technical, we need to consider using all the resources we can to take advantages of whatever grants we have. So the other thing is the board, again, I said we've all stated our willingness to help expand broadband. Knowing the circumstances, schools, county folks that work from home, we know there's a need, we know we want to do it. We have to say we've got X number of dollars we're willing to invest and make sure that folks stay there. So I think that's it. That's kind of what I wanted to make sure we all had. We did say, I think Mr. Black had said we want a work session on broadband. I believe, Mr. Sadler, that's a complete and concise report on where we are. So, okay, what points do you want to bring up in the work session? The same things I mentioned, like where to serve, what to do, consultants to buy.
And as far as some of the stuff we mentioned, as far as if we're gonna hire a consultant, so forth, where the choke points are, where the places that we need to go in the county are, where the places most underserved, and I think every supervisor needs to be involved in that.
Yeah, that's.
So, I mean, is there can We set a date for that?
I don't have a problem. I think we can. No, I mean, we can set a date without, the chair being here, but we would have the meeting, of course, with him. You wanna, I don't think it would take more than an hour or so, Mr. Cully.
Can we wait till, before we get too deep to where REC, that was a big piece of the puzzle you
Oh,
left
I didn't want you
out.
to say anything about that.
Not saying anything about it, but wouldn't we want to wait to know where that's headed
There,
before we get too deep into
yeah,
parallel tracks and spending money that we may not have to?
I think that you make a great point. They've asked us not to even discuss anything with them. There are totally separate an auction being conducted by the FCC the end of this month.
That's what I'm
Right.
saying. It's kind of getting close
Right.
to maybe knowing something. That's what if you do it like 2 weeks before we know anything, then it could all
Oh,
change.
no, the date was gonna be November, December, or something like that. So they're gonna have their auction. Is it November, December? Yeah, we meet twice in November, right?
So, beginning of December?
We're not having a Thanksgiving meeting.
Beginning of December?
Beginning of December should be a good time frame. We should have maybe one more broadband committee meeting before then, and I'll have somebody from the broadband committee other than me or Mr. Sadler come and make a report to the board, or at least be part of that work session. So we can look for December. Mr. Sadler, you can see if we can get December set for them. All right, that was the only thing I added. Mr. Fincham asked me if I would make a motion. This was regarding my public comment. If I would make a motion to suspend the requirement for a first reading of a proposed text amendment to Chapter 68 of the County Code, authorize a public hearing to November board meeting to remove the construction activities from exempt activities in the noise ordinance. So I'm making that motion. If I could get a second. Okay.
Actually, we'll go into discussion.
Discussion.
I just wanted some more detail on what that would involve, what that motion.
Mr. Fincham is coming, but, well, I'll let Mr. Fincham take it.
Mr. Forehand, we've received a number of noise complaints related to late hours of construction activities within and adjacent to a number of our active developments in the county. Currently, there is no recourse for the sheriff's office to enforce noise complaints related to construction activity because that is specifically exempt under the noise ordinance. So they can operate until 8, 9, 10 o'clock, whatever, with virtually no recourse for the neighbors for those actions. In talking to the sheriff today, we noted that there's a deficiency there. I did ask him to look if there were other remedies available, but the noise ordinance is the one that really addresses these issues. Could it be a nuisance? Maybe. And he's looking at that, but this would be the cleanest way to address those noise issues. There's a number of remedies. We could specify a time frame. For example, it's exempt between the hours of 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. And that way, after that, it's a noise violation if it exceeds those standards. That's what we're looking at.
Mr. Fincham, can you give me a specific example of these complaints? Just, you don't have to name
We actually had a complaint this morning related to construction activity in Maple Grove over off Durrett Road, hours of operation. We've also had complaints.
So they're building these houses at 6 a.m.?
No, they were actually grading the property late at night, 10 o'clock or so was the complaint. The construction equipment was out there late at night.
That's just equipment. And
It's equipment, but there's noise associated with that equipment. And that was a complaint, was the noise. And the lights flashing in the windows,
Can I ask you a question, play devil's advocate for a second? So, Route 1, let's say there's a major paving, like, because the direct road's right off Route 1. If VDOT wants to be out there doing construction at the repaving, or there's damage to the road or something that they need to be out there, can they be out there at 3 a.m. paving?
There are provisions for emergency work. Typically, VDOT's not going to have a construction project at 3 o'clock in the morning unless it's an emergency. Again, I think that's a caveat that we could.
Yeah, okay.
We could make sure that we address.
I think there were some complaints in Pendleton, and I've had a few complaints myself in Brookwood. Different things, the same type of thing. 10, 11 o'clock during the weekday, 10, 11 o'clock during the Saturday, a Sunday is a bit much. And maybe that's what we need to do, Mr. Fincham, is consider waivers or whatever, because I know if we've got a 50 house limit during the year, they're going to try to put those 50 houses in, and maybe if they get platted, we say, yeah, you can have a little extension, but let's not run construction equipment all night. And I understand their perspective is I got to get this house built so I can sell it. But a lot of these houses are going where they have neighbors.
If we were going to, the parameters of the noise ordinance is what right now?
Construction activities are specifically exempt from the noise ordinance.
No, but the time constraints, what are the
Oh, right now, it
constraints
doesn't make
now?
any difference what time.
Non-construction, I'm sorry.
Oh, non-construction? It's tied to decibel levels, and I believe it's 9 o'clock is the, you have certain levels during the daytime hours, and then you have more restrictive levels nighttime. And off the top of my head, I believe it's 9 o'clock at night, but don't quote me on that.
Okay. Because I've endured, nail guns next door at 6 a.m. that went to 10 o'clock at night because but it was over when the house was done, there soon thereafter.
Yeah.
I have concerns like, well, if they're milling something at night, and if this would apply to a quarry that might have, I don't know, I just want to make sure it's specific in addressing the issue that we have.
Yes, sir.
And not have the unintended consequences where it affects all this other stuff that we didn't think about.
Yes, sir.
And I can feel for it, and I'm actually used to it. Companies I've worked for in Northern Virginia, you couldn't even have a truck idle until a certain time in the morning, and then all activities had to wrap up at a certain fairly early hour in the evening. But so if we can craft something like that, I'm all for it.
Okay.
So.
Any more discussion? Motion before us is to suspend the requirement for first reading and have this brought back to us in November. I think Mr. Fincham can have something brought back in November.
So we would suspend the exception now?
No, the exception for a first reading.
Okay.
We go straight to public hearing
straight to
if the
public
board
hearing.
approves that, and then we will have options for you to consider.
Great. I was just got concerned there for a second. We were suspending the.
No, suspend the first
exception.
reading.
Okay.
No, it's really, this is basically first reading. So I think we're good. If there's no more discussion, I'm gonna carry the motion.
So moved.
Okay, I think we
Or second, what do we need?
already had a motion. I was gonna carry the motion. So, those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, lady and gentlemen. Closing board comments. Mr. Forehand,
Not this time, sir.
this is the only time you're gonna have.
I'll pass on tonight.
Mr. Black?
Even though from Maine I don't have any.
And I'm one of the five, one of the two that Mr. Actually from Virginia. And I still voted to have it moved.
Mr. Underwood, are you from Maine too? Go ahead. Closing board comments. Forget I said that.
Not from Maine, but
I know.
no comments, Mr. Chairman.
All right. For those who don't know, Mr. Underwood is in the Indiana Hall of Fame. Mrs. Long?
The only thing I'll say is I did send a text to Ms. Seeley when we were on our break and got a reply back that Mr. Seeley is doing very well. She's very pleased with his progress. So that's good news.
Well, great. We are all very glad to hear that and look forward to his quick return. I think that's it. I told Mr. Black 8:30, so we need to hang out for a couple of more minutes. Motion to adjourn is in order.
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Second by Mrs. Long. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, nay. Motion carries. We are adjourned. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day.